We'll go ahead and call April 7th, 2020 education meeting to order. Ms. Weckerser, please record that we do have a quorum. We have 5 board members present. Tracy will be with us shortly, but at this time, invocation by Ms. Terry, and now lead us in the.
Okay, let's bow our heads, please. Dear Father, you came into the world to heal our infirmities and to endure our sufferings. You went about healing all and bringing comfort to those in pain and need. We come before you now in this time of widespread illness, asking that you may be the source of our strength in body, courage in spirit, and patience in navigating these uncharted waters. Please grant us wisdom and guide every decision we make for the protection and betterment of our employees, students, families, and communities. We are so very thankful for those around us who are braving this pandemic to serve others. Our first responders, healthcare workers, child nutrition staff, bus drivers, custodians, social workers, counselors, bookkeepers, office staff, utility workers, store clerks, grocery stores, pharmacists, community and faith-based volunteers, delivery service workers, government leaders, journalists, restaurant employees, corporate sponsors, and our administration and Dr. Williams. We are so very thankful for our teachers and instructional assistants who are working hard to keep our children engaged with learning. We are thankful for our parents and family members who are at home helping our children to navigate this new frontier called remote learning. There are many other unsung heroes, such as neighbors and strangers helping each other in this time of need. We see you in every act of kindness and are grateful for all of the many blessings you provide each day. Please help us to compassionately address issues tonight and to be your example in all that we do, think, and say, so that we may give praise and honor to your name. Amen.
Amen.
Please stand. Pledge allegiance of the United
States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to go into closed session for the purpose that's stated on our board agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Dr. Smith and a second by Mr. Ronald Johnson. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 5-0. 6-0. I see Tracy's in the meeting now, so motion carries 6-0. So at this time, we'll go into closed session. So board meeting is back in open session. We've already gone through our, we have a quorum and we've done our invocation and pledge and we've had our closed session. So at this time, I will entertain a motion for the approval of the March 10th, 2020 regular session minutes.
So moved. No,
Motion by Tracy. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, second by Teresa. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Now, we have the approval of our March 16th, 2020 emergency session meetings. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Ronald,
Second.
second by Teresa. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries 6-0. At this time, we're going to go to updates from myself as well as our committees that we have. First, before we get started, I just want to say thank you to everyone for their efforts during these unprecedented times. We're going through something now that there's not a playbook, but I think Dr. Williams, Dr. Pierce, and the entire staff has done an outstanding job of moving us through these uncharted waters. I think that the staff that's on the front lines, our custodians, our nutrition, our teachers, everyone that's involved in the schools has done an amazing job to make sure that we've communicated as best as possible. We've done everything that we could to make sure that everybody was fed. Our community volunteers, the schools that have opened up for feeding sites of that nature have done an outstanding job, and I'm excited to get more information tonight from the COVID-19 update. But I just want to tell you, Dr. Williams, Dr. Pierce, and whoever else is on here that I can't see, as far as we appreciate everything you guys have done an outstanding job. I know you've communicated around the clock with me and others, and you guys have worked 7 days a week for quite a while now. So I just want to say thank you very much for a job well done. So,
Here.
Amen to that.
at this time, I'm going to go through. Mike is not with us. Mike's bank is part of the Paycheck Protection Program that the government has rolled out for small businesses. Mike's been working around the clock. He did pass along some information this morning that the Finance Committee continues to chat and work with the county commissioners. I know Ronald and I were with Mike a couple of weeks ago with Dr. Williams on a call with Ted Godwin, Rick Hester, and Chad McLam. So there has been ongoing discussions being about the budget, and they're trying to get a working budget in the next 10 days, and there'll be conversations with the Finance Committee as well as the county commissioners to try to get this, continue these conversations to come to the type of budget, trying to figure it out with everything. It's kind of hard for you guys to meet right now. So at this time, I'm just going to ask Ronald or Teresa, do you guys have anything to add from the finance side? Because you all have been in the trenches with Mike on this, so I want to give you an opportunity.
Yeah, and everything's revenue-based, and by revenue-based, it's the tax money that we can generate through sales and et cetera. And I think it's very important to acknowledge the impact COVID-19 has had on our local economy, because businesses aren't allowed to open, which significantly has impacted the business's ability to generate revenue, which will also in turn their ability to pay taxes, which also impacts our revenue. And that is what is controlled on our end, is revenue generated by taxes coming from the county commissioner. So we're going to have to really evaluate, and we've already started the process and looking at a forecast of how COVID-19 is impacted already and will continue to impact the taxes that are, within the realm of the public to pay. So that's something we're looking at, the cash flow, what the school has, because this has significantly impacted how we've spent money as a system. Some things we might have not had to spend money on, but we've had to significantly increase other expenditures. So we're looking at now kind of doing a cost evaluation on what's been done, and hopefully we can kind of get this all sorted out and forecast how much longer we'll have to undergo these circumstances.
Okay. Teresa, do you have anything to add from your side as well?
I don't.
Okay. Before I go any further, I got excited that we're going to try to move through this meeting, but let's back up just a second, go back to the board committees. Is there any adjustments to the agenda, starting with Mr. Johnson?
No, sir, no adjustment.
Thank you. Ms. Grant,
No adjustments.
Ms. Sessoms,
No adjustments.
Dr. Smith,
None, sir.
and Ms. Lukowski.
Mr. Chairman.
All right, good deal. Now we'll move back to the board committees. So I was excited to get an update from the Finance Committee because, like I said, it's a lot that goes in that. And just to piggyback off what Rick said, you ride by the Carolina Pottery, which is a big tax, sales tax revenue for the county. And unfortunately, they're closed right now due to everything that's going on. So it's definitely impacting us from all facets of our county. And we're just going to have to continue to be diligent with our money and really look at it from a conservative basis that we always do. But now we're going to have to look at it from a different angle. So, Ronald, thanks for your input on that as well from the Finance Committee. At this time, Dr. Smith, do you have anything from the legal representation?
And the district and the policy review. So I'll just kind of run through this really quickly. Our first committee meeting with the Committee for Legal Services and District Elections were canceled. We did not have a quorum of committee membership, but Michelle is sending out a poll to determine a convenient time so that we can move on with our work. We've gathered documents from about 20 different districts for legal services. We've gathered job descriptions, sample RFPs from other districts. So that will be underway as soon as we can determine the time for the committee to meet. For the district elections, we have sent the committee a sample draft, a draft is a good word, proclamation requesting that our legislative delegation allow the Johnston County Board of Education to hold district elections following the pattern of the county commissioners. This assures that all areas of the county will have equal representation. The proclamation, once the committee meets and tweaks puts in their tweaks, the proclamation will be shared with the county commissioners for their tweaks, mayors, chambers of commerce, school advisory councils, PTAs, and others who are interested. It will be posted on the policies under review as soon as the committee meets and gets the proclamation in the form that it wishes to be shared. And lastly, the Policy Review Committee is planning to meet the first week in May. I think Dr. Pierce has sent out the invitation, or at least has reached out to the members of the committee to determine a good time to meet in May. So all underway. As soon as we can get people together, you can't do something when you have two committee members. So we really need everybody to sign up for when they can come, and then we'll determine a next step. So thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you for the updates. And, with these times that we're in, it's very hard for us to meet. We used to just pick up and move and go to the boardroom and meet as a committee and things of that nature. But thank goodness for technology. We can still meet as we're meeting tonight. I am in the boardroom because of Wi-Fi problems where it's a little choppy at my house. And appreciate you all being able to accommodate your own home. We can still conduct. So thank y'all for everything you're doing. At this time, there's no special recognitions, obviously, so we'll go into advisory appointments, and I believe we have one tonight from Archer Lodge Middle. So Tracy?
Yes, sir. Principal Melissa Hubbard at Archer Lodge Middle School is appointing new member Jennifer Willoughby for a term of 3 years to fill a vacant seat, and her term will end in June 2022.
All right. I'll take that as a motion. We don't have any more appointments, so I'll entertain a second on that.
Second.
All right, Dr. Smith, the second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries 6-0. At this time, we'll go on to Dr. Williams. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, at this time, I would ask that the board approve consent items 9A, 1A through 9A, 1K.
Okay, so Dr. Williams is asking us to approve consent items 1A through 9A and K. So I'll entertain a motion for that.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Johnson,
Second.
second by Ms. Grant. Any questions or? If not, all in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries 6-0.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I think Ms. Weckesser could confirm this, but you had a process set up for public comment via email, and I don't think we had any emails submitted, but just wanted to confirm that and make sure that we recognize that you did set up an email forum for public comment.
Yes, I just got confirmation from Ms. Weckesser that we had no public comment. We had a link set up today, or information went out about we were accepting from 8 to 5 today any public comments via email, and they were going to be linked to our agenda. So I did just get confirmation, Ken, that we had no public comment sent in for tonight's meeting. Thank you for that. Okay, Dr. Pierce.
Yes, good evening, Chairman Sutton, Lady Vice Chair, Dr. Smith, and members of the board, Dr. Williams. Tonight, I have 8 items for the board for approval. So I'll go through these, and after each one, we'll take the vote. So the first one is Exhibit 9A2, which is Policy Code 3260. It was last amended on November 9th. No additional changes have been made since the policy was presented for information. And so it is the recommendation of the Policy Review Committee to amend Policy 3260, and it is presented for approval.
Okay, so I'd entertain a motion for Policy 3260.
I move.
Ms. Sessoms,
Second.
second by Ronald. Any comments or questions on Policy 3260? If not, in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries 6-0. Dr. Pierce?
Second policy is 4235/5312, which is child abuse and related threats to child safety. This is a new policy that was provided by the North Carolina School Board Association. And since the last time it was brought to the board for information, the following revisions have been made at the board member's suggestions. The first one is that an employee who fails to make a report as required by law. And then the second one was that this policy may be subject to, employees of this policy may be subject to disciplinary actions by the school system up to and including dismissal. And so with those 2 revisions, it is the recommendation of the Policy Review Committee to approve Policy 4235-5312, and it's presented for approval.
All right, so I'll entertain a motion for 4235/5312 policy.
So moved.
Second.
Dr. Smith and Ronald Johnson, first and second. Any comment, questions on this policy? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries 6-0.
Next one is going to be Exhibit 9A4, which is Policy Code 5130, Employee Conduct with Students. This was last amended on November 9th, 1999. The following revisions have been made since being presented for information. They were an employee who fails to inform the superintendent or designee as provided in this section may be subject to disciplinary action up to and including dismissal. It is a recommendation of the Policy Review Committee to adopt Policy 5130, and it's presented for approval.
Dr. Pierce,
Yes, ma'am.
let's tweak that just a little bit. As required by law was in the previous policy. And I think this also is an action required by law, if that would meet the approval of the board, if we could just add those words. Report as required by law.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion for policy 5130.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Teresa Grant, second by Tracy Zukowski. Any other questions or comments on policy 5130?
So that's approved as amended, correct?
Yes.
Because we just tweaked it. Okay, thank you.
Yes, approved as amended that Dr. Smith had. All right, if there's no other comments. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries 6-0.
Next is Board Exhibit 9A5, and this is Policy 1320-3560. This is Title I Parent and Family Engagement. And this is a new policy, but no additional changes have been made since being presented for information at the last meeting. So it is the recommendation that we adopt Policy 1320-3560, and it's presented for approval.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adopt policy 1320-3560 as a new policy.
So moved.
Ms. Grant, motion.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Zukowski. Any comments on this policy? If not, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries 6-0.
Board Exhibit 9A6 is Policy Code 7230, Sales and Solicitation. This policy was last revised May 9th, 2017. And this policy has been revised about the sales of advertising in yearbooks. And so no additional changes have been made since being presented for information. So it would be the recommendation of policy review to amend Policy 7230 as it is presented for approval.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to approve policy 7230.
So moved.
Motion by Ronald,
Second.
second by Dr. Smith. Any comments or questions on policy 7230? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries 6-0.
Then Board Exhibit 9A7, which is Policy Code 7400, Contract Administration. If you recall that we revised this back January 14th of 2020, but we needed to make the additional revision to allow Transportation Department to exceed that $10,000 limit. And so no additional changes have been made since the last meeting when it was presented for approval. And so it is the recommendation of the Policy Review Committee to amend 7400 and is presented for approval.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion for policy 7400.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Zukowski,
I'll second.
I want to flip a coin.
That's okay. Let Ronald have it.
Second by Mr. Johnson. All in favor? Or any comments, questions regarding?
Yeah, I've got one. Dr. Pierce, you said something about exceeding $10,000, that it would allow them to exceed $10,000. That's what you said, am I correct?
Yeah, so before, it would allow them not to have to start getting bids until we get to the $10,000 mark. So for instance, if they needed a transmission at $7,000, they wouldn't have to start the bidding until they get to the $10,000 mark. That has been holding them up.
Okay. Is there a limit? Is there a limit that they can exceed, or is it, what is the limit? Is it 10,000 or what is it now?
So up to 10,000, they would not have, they can do the informal bidding process. Starting at 10,000, they have to do the formal bidding process up to 90,000. And then of course, board approval from there on.
Okay.
And I think we updated this, is this right, Dr. Pierce, to go ahead and give them a little bit of that guidance because of it falling under one of the, under transportation, not transportation, under facilities or something?
Yeah,
Okay.
we had listed just facilities, but we wanted to be specific that since transportation is under facilities, it was also for transportation as well.
But transportation might not always fall under facility, so we did not want transportation to have to fall under such rigorous bidding because buses need to roll and they need to get parts, which are sometimes expensive. And I think this is consistent with other district policies, is it not, Dr. Pierce?
Yes, it is. I would say yes.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0.
All right, so that is the end of policies. My next two exhibits, exhibit number 9A8, is a request for us to go into an agreement with the North Carolina School Board Association. And so basically, Johnson County Public Schools Board of Education is a member of the North Carolina School Board Association. And the North Carolina School Board Association provides many services. You hear me often in policy review say we've aligned it with the School Board Association sample policy. And so what we are asking is that we would request to get your approval for the Johnson County Public Schools to work with the North Carolina School Board Association to align and convert our policies to their 9000 series system. Basically, what this will do, this will ensure that we get the revisions from the PLS and use their services so that we have correlation between what their series and updates are to Johnston County Public Schools. Any changes to policy would still require board approval. And so we are asking for you to approve us to align our policy with the School Board Association and to convert. And we're requesting this to start in May, the process.
Okay. So I'll entertain a motion to align Johnson County Public School policies with the North Carolina School Board Association.
So moved.
A motion by Ms. Sessoms. Anybody second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Zukowski. All right. Now, any questions or comments regarding aligning Johnson County Public Schools with policies with the North Carolina School Board Association?
Dr. Pierce, I assume this would help us make sure that we stay current if legislation changes, things like that. I know that when we did some of our policies of late, we felt like we were kind of behind the times on getting some of those current, and this would help us stay on track for that. Is that the purpose?
Yes, ma'am. The main purpose is twice a year they put out updates based on legislation and based on the laws, and they follow the most up-to-date research. And so they try to help us be the most efficient and effective policies out there. Yes.
Thank you.
And the time that we spend talking to other districts to find out what they're doing, they do that for us. And it would just save enormous time for Dr. Pierce and the staff, as well as the review committee. They are hired, and that's their job, is to stay current with not only law, but state board policy and best practices, really. So that we've been calling them, when we used to rely on Mr. Lawrence, we now call them to ask. We've called several times while we were in meetings to say, how does this sound? Is this are we on track? They will do that for us automatically. So it's a really, it's a great advantage to our district.
Any other questions or comments regarding aligning ourselves with our policies with the School Board Association?
So any changes in policy would be as it is now. You would get them, adopt them, review them, and then you bring them, Dr. Pierce or whoever would bring them to us, and we would be made aware.
That's correct.
That's
Yes,
fine.
sir. Every policy has to come back before the board. It may be something as simple as changing policy 3400 to 4200, and that would come to you all just for a simple revision.
Yeah.
Okay.
The committee would still meet,
Yeah.
and because it only updates twice a year, but we would still have to meet monthly to make sure that our policies were in line.
And just so all board members know, what you would see is on our school board, on our page, you would see an old policy link, and then you would see a new policy link. And after every policy is updated through the board, the new policies would start going into the new policy link until we update all the policies to the new system.
Okay.
I think it's a great idea, great plan for the simple reason keeping us up to date. You guys have been working extremely hard trying to catch back up on policies that may have been a little bit out of date and so forth. And And as the finance committee has been working very hard in their area as well, but you guys have been doing a lot with just looking at the policies we've approved tonight. So I think it's a great idea. There's any other questions or comments?
Just one, Mr. Chair, from my point of view, just to save time, if you're doing if they're doing a revised policy manual for you, you probably will have to see every policy. If all they're doing, or if a lot of what they're doing is renumbering your policies so they match their manual, it's my opinion that if it's not the policy content, in other words, the policy number, legal references, those kinds of things, the board doesn't have to approve. So that might save you some time. If you want to, you could, but you don't have to approve this policy number 3,000, something's not going to be policy number 4,000.
Okay.
That's good.
Again, as long as there's no amendment to the policy, it may just be a change of policy 4,300 to policy 5,300, just a numerical change. It would not have to come before the board.
That's right.
What we used to call a technical adjustment, and it doesn't have to come as long as it's not substantive in the content of the policy.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. So we've got a motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Or opposed? Motion carries 6-0.
All right, Mr. Chairman, the last one of the night for me is CAP school list for the 2021 school year. Board Policy 4100 states that the Board of Education will not entertain requests for reassignments to those schools with the projected enrollment which exceeds the capacity established for the school. And so provided is the list of exceeding capacity schools or CAP schools. Some of you may be asking, why are we doing this? Because the policy says we have to have it in before June 1st, but our window for reassignment on the reassignment policy opens for new reassignments on May 15th. And so we need to know which schools are capped before we open that window. Mm-hmm. And so the CAP schools were determined based on design capacity minus total number of students. Schools that do not have at least 51 seats available or more based on design capacity were deemed capped. Okay, so I want everybody to understand how that formula is done. Also want to let you know that we may also have to cap grades in non-cap schools based on the K-3 class size regulation. And this would be done based on the following criteria. If all classes within the grade level are within one student from exceeding the individual class size limit, the grade level would then be deemed capped at a non-cap school. So it is our recommendation to approve the criteria to determine cap schools and approve the list as presented for the 2021 school year, and it's presented for approval.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to approve the CAP school list 2020-2021 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ronald Johnson, second by Dr. Smith. Any questions or comments?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Dr. Pierce, Selma Elementary is a capped school. Is that because we moved the 5th grade back there because they used to have empty seats? Now it's capped, and I'm assuming that transfer created that situation, because I know a lot of parents like to take their children there for the daily immersion second language program, but it is now a capped school, which would eliminate that opportunity. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. That would, with the transfer, it would put them under the 51 seats available criteria. So that is what made them capped.
Okay. So an unintended consequence, but I'm glad the 5th grade is back at Selma. That's beyond question, but I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
All right, any other comments? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 6-0.
Mr. Chairman, before we move from committees, because I don't remember if this fell under the committees or something else, but last meeting we talked about a couple of things with teacher assistants. One was them not being paid when they went for their physicals. The others was the mailboxes. Was that going to fall something under the policy committee?
I believe Dr. Williams was going to be doing some more research on it. So Dr. Williams, do you have an update on those two items for us?
And I want to add one thing to it. A teacher assistant reached out to me and said the other thing that they are not being paid for is when they do bus training in the summer. They're required to do bus training, but they don't get paid for those hours as well.
Okay.
And I mean, if they're working, if they're doing something they're required to do their job, I'm not understanding why we wouldn't be paying for that.
If I could interject, Ms. Grant, we did work on that last year. If we're looking to do it differently this year, to invite them to come during work days, so that it's during the established work days at the end of the year. And then for 9 months employees, it might take them a bit longer to get their training done, but during the year. So we have phased that particular piece out so the new class would not have to deal with that.
Okay, wonderful.
Good.
Thank you. They're working, they need to be paid, whether it's training or driving.
And it would
Thank
be
you.
it would be during work days. It would not be during instructional time. Correct?
Not every single person that we take through driving classes throughout the year can all be in one class. You have a limit of, I think, less than 50 who can be in the classes throughout the year. But anybody who would be called up to do a summer class on the rotation, our goal is to have them during the work days rather than having to be done after the summer class, into the summer.
Okay. Thank you.
Ms. Gill, if you would, I know you and I spoke in regards to the mailbox conversation we had from last board meeting. If you could speak to that, please.
Yes, we did not have time to do much with that, just quite honestly, with what we've had dealing with right now. One of the things we had to check on was our insurance coverage, how long that practice had been in place, and all the nuts and bolts surrounding that. Mr. Vetrano and I have spoken briefly about the folks being able to get their requirements for the physical. But it is my understanding, and I believe that Mr. Vetrano can speak to that part of the reason why we contracted with the service that we do, the doctor's office that we do, is because they have very fluid hours that can be used, not just having to do it at a certain time. But without having spent a lot of time with it, I wish I had more definitive information, but just quite honestly, we've just glossed that over and need to go back and look at that now that we start to return to some semi-normal pieces, since we've been in response to COVID.
I totally understand. I just want to make sure that we look at the other part too, because that got brought to my attention afterwards. And like I said, if people are working for the school system, regardless of whether they're getting their physical or they're taking training, they need to be paid for their hours.
And I will say that I know that Chase and Chad Holloman and Danny are very open to hearing any concerns people have. So we encourage if they have a concern about a practice that may need to be revisited, to reach out to those folks and let them hear what those issues are, so that we can work on those types of things as we start to kind of think about where we want to head in the future. So they've indicated they're very open to hearing about those concerns.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. And while we're talking about that with the policies, I know last month too, we talked about the reassignment fee of the $10 that was, that some of us have had parents reaching out to us that they've had to pay a $10 reassignment fee. Has the policy committee revisited that, or is that on the agenda to do at the next policy committee meeting?
The policy review committee has not met since the last board meeting.
Do you all mind y'all's agenda just to revisit? I know that I reached out to some of the parents after the last meeting, telling them that we am loud and clear and that we would be looking at that. And I know that under the circumstances, it's caused some problems for meetings. But if y'all don't mind just putting that on there for your next meeting, I'd appreciate it. All right. We're up to basically probably what everybody is interested in with the COVID-19 updates. And as I said in the beginning, I've been in the boardroom when the leadership team was meeting early on just to see and hear and feel it myself. And everybody that's on the Zoom call that has been involved since day one with the COVID-19 updates has put in many, many extra hours. And as we said before, I believe everybody in the echoes, we really appreciate the job that each and every one of you have done. I have a teacher at home, hard. The teachers are working. They're on more calls than they've ever been on, and trying to connect with their students on Google Meets and Google Class, saying different things. So the teachers and the TAs, everybody in Johnson County Public Schools has stepped up to the plate to make sure that every students has been taken care of in some capacity or another. I know that school nurses, sister-in-law is a school nurse, she's reached out to students. My wife has reached out to students that social workers couldn't get, and finally they were able to connect with them. So everybody has really stepped up and made sure that we have not forgotten about any student, any staff member, anything in Johnston County. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to the COVID-19 update committee. I think Dr. Paula Coates, basically the entire cabinet has updates. So I will let them have the floor.
Thank you, Chairman Sutton, and everyone on the board and senior leadership. I do want to echo the absolute outstanding spirit of teamwork among everyone in Johnston County Public Schools to pull off the events that have occurred since our school closure on March 13th. So what I will do is go through briefly the update from instruction, and we'll just go right through our cabinet order that's on the agenda, if that's amenable to everyone, and then entertain questions at the end. Sure. So we basically went through 3 phases with the sudden school closure. Our very first step with instruction was to provide web-based resources for parents to access while we took at least a week of time to prepare some quality information and instructional activities for our students to use at home. So we did that, and those things are still posted on the website. They are arranged by grade level and subject, and they're really neat activities for parents to reference for children. Then through phase 2, which really started the second week of closure, our teachers planned 10 days of supplemental instruction. Central leadership provided templates to them that was by grade level and content area, and samples of what supplemental learning should look like while we're closed for school. And the teachers had the choice to use those resources we provided them or to use their own resources, but they published in folders for each school that were also placed on the website 10 days of supplemental instructional activities. And that supplemental instruction began on March 30th and is continuing through this week. Once teachers completed their planning around the supplemental instruction, they began planning what new content delivery would look like as much as possible, and that would begin on April 20th when we come back from spring break. Throughout this same time, while we're planning instruction and teachers were planning, central leadership provided support sessions for teachers. We've established a website for teachers only to go to get support that they need in planning, whether it's content support, how to work with remote learning while we're out of school, guidance around how to hold IEP meetings while we're out of school. So we've tried to provide all the support that people would need. When you also go to our website, the technology department did a great job of putting all of the COVID-19 resources in one easily accessible area. And you can click on a school, and the resources for those students at that school will be there linked in that document. We are continuing to work with the Department of Public Instruction and the State Board of Education on updates. There are a lot of unanswered questions with respect to grading, and we're awaiting further guidance there. But we are continuing to try to meet everyone's needs and work as hard as we can to provide quality instruction with as much equity as can be done during this school closure.
And we appreciate everything you guys have done and continue to do as far as that goes. I think that once, it was very unfortunate that DPS very limited information in the beginning, and the phone calls that you all were on trying to figure out what other districts were doing and how we could take some of those items and implement it in Johnston County, and then creating the other items to just to roll out to the entire district, I think has been very good. And we, like I said before, I appreciate everything you all have done to assist during this time.
Thank you.
Any questions for Dr. Coates on the instruction piece from the board?
Dr. Coates, I'm not sure this is your bailiwick or not, but there have been several conversations as you brought up the word equity. Many students in our district do not have access. There are many families with multiple children who, even if they have access, cannot be online 3 or 4 hours a day. So what are we doing to address those concerns?
I will reserve the technical aspect of that for Ms. Gill. She can comment more on that, but from the instructional piece only, we certainly have tried to provide whatever we could to those students. Our schools have provided devices when possible. If internet access was a problem, they have prepared packets and delivered those packets to homes. And I know the technology department has been working diligently to get information about access and what devices were needed for both staff and students. As you know, it's impossible, which is unfortunate, but it is impossible across the state. Everyone is dealing with the equity concern, and I believe our folks are trying to. They're in some cases doing phone calls to reach students, to talk to students on the phone if they cannot access them any other way. So while it is not what we would choose, it would be a wonderful world if everyone did have internet access and we could continue online instruction as usual. Our schools and our teachers and our school leaders have provided as much information to them with paper, pencil as they possibly could during this time.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And Dr. Coates, first of all, thank you for all the hard work. The resources look great online. I have the same concern that Dr. Smith voiced. So we will continue to provide hard packets for those students who don't have internet access.
We are continuing to provide everything that we can in a safe environment. As you know, we will be starting spring break Friday. We won't provide anything during that spring break. And hopefully by that time, we will have a more safe environment to be able to provide. But our schools, even if they have to leave them in areas for parents to pick up, we will do everything that we possibly can while maintaining the safety and welfare of our staff to provide what students need during this closure.
Great. And then I guess this question, it probably should go to Ms. Gill, but do we have any idea how many students do not have internet access?
Mrs. Gill, did you want to pick that up, or did you want me to continue to elaborate on that?
I'm happy to speak to that whenever it gets to my section.
Okay.
My turn.
Okay, I'll hold that for her because I know she did some survey analysis in that area. Any other instruction questions for me?
I have one. I know that North Carolina DPI has partnered with the Friday Institute for all the districts within our system. Are we planning on using some of the resources that they're providing to give further tools to our staff and students?
We have been, as you can imagine, inundated with every vendor in the nation almost offering to provide support. So what we do when we get that information, we vet it under such questions as, is this something easily accessible to our teachers without training? Many times a new product might look great, but if it's not practical and teachers and students are not familiar with it, it does not benefit them. So we've kind of had a vetting process, and we put a lot of things out there, We look at every offer given to us, and then a lot of times those decisions, we post things and people choose to use them or not. We provide the support that we can provide, and if it's something that we feel like we cannot support and would be too much trouble, we just would not post it.
Well, I think what I was really alluding to, I understand that you've been reached out by a lot of vendors, but in specifically that the DPI has hired the Friday Institute to help our districts with whatever they need. And so I just wanted to make sure that you've been reached out to from them as well.
We are in touch with DPI staff at least twice a week, and we are utilizing anything that they recommend and provide for us. So the answer to that would be yes.
Perfect. That's what I wanted to hear.
Sorry, I misunderstood your question.
No, that's okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is it my go?
Any other questions or codes? All right, Ms. Gill.
All right. Good evening, everybody. I'm going to go through because a lot of my, oh, cute. Whose is that? Oh, it's okay. So under my section, I'm going to speak to technology, communication, facilities, school nutrition, and transportation. Those are all of our areas under operations and communications. And I'm going to take them one by one because that's the logistical arm of what we've been trying to get done since the school closure. I'll start with technology. The first thing that we did was I got a first, before I talk about any of these sections, I need to just publicly thank Michelle Turnage, Nathaniel Shelton, Brooks Moore, Dana Edwards, and Chase Farrell, just to name a few, because these folks have worked tirelessly, and I appreciate them. They are just such smart, wonderful, talented people. But when we began to know that things were changing quickly, I will say our principals have been tremendous instructional leaders, understanding that digital learning is also a part of being an instructional leader. And each of them submitted a plan to us, and Dr. Pierce and Ms. Whittington have been tremendous in helping us gather data. Kudos to them. But first they gave us a plan of action, whether it be, most of them were a combination, I'd say all of them, a combination of instructional packets and use of digital learning to meet the needs of the students. And so once that was done, then each of them came up with a distribution plan of devices, who needed devices. We have a home use agreement that we use to check out these devices. And then we gave a survey to be able to have a total number of how many devices that have been distributed countywide. We've had 8,227 devices that have been distributed district-wide. And so what we would be doing is they've been surveying, do you have a device? Do you need a device? Do you need a packet to be able to meet the needs? And that was a lot of those phone calls in that few days before we knew things were getting ready to change. The other thing that we have done is we sent out a survey as well about what were the needs in regards to internet service and hotspots, as we would call them. And we got numbers from K all the way up to 12th grade, anywhere, and these were rough numbers. Now that we're beginning to, when we get product in, and I'll talk in a minute about that, we'll have to talk more about where you put your priorities as far as hotspots are concerned. But here's where we are with that. We've reached out to 3 different vendors. One of the vendors, their product was back ordered until the middle of June as far as hotspots. Another vendor could get the product in 4 weeks, but they were a per month charge and was going to be pretty exorbitant. And then we put in an application with another vendor through DPI, and we were on a conference call with them today. And again, the earliest they can get the product to us is in about 3 to 4 weeks. But we do intend to move forward with that particular vendor, and here's the reason why. because the pricing was good and you didn't have to pay a per month charge, and because you only paid one price per unit and you get to keep the units for 2 years. So the good news is, once we use them for this emergency situation, or we find there's choice kids, or we find there's kids with some equity issues, as we get better and better in how we've been catapulted into remote learning, we can use these even for a hurricane, all sorts of things. So we're very intrigued by the 2-year ability. There is an application process we went through, which means that they actually take a look and see how you're using them. You have to ensure that they're being used. They can't just sit in a box. So our next step is we've been narrowing down our numbers to ensure of actually who that would go to when you sign out a hotspot. We also have a home use agreement for that as well. These are phone type of devices, and all they're capable of doing is serving as a hotspot, and they are filtered and have the protections in them. So we are getting ready to really start getting down to the school level and the kid's name level, and we're moving forward with putting in that order for that. We are also going to try for the very first time, we've ordered a hotspot device that can be put on a bus. We'd like to put that at one of our most used feeding sites, because it could be used when families come to the feeding site in some of our most hard-hit areas. You do have to have a power source, so we have to have somebody to kind of watch it, and then we'd have a passcode for that. And we're going to see, those are pretty easy to get in, so we're going to try to get that done first, see how that goes, and see how we could potentially expand that in the future for not just this event, but other events and other uses. This can be moved off of the bus and used in other places over time. The other thing we had in our department, and we joined with Amy Stanley and a member of my team, Mr. Summers, and on our COVID website, we have, under student resources, we have an updated list of mobile free hotspots that we have gone through and called all of these folks, and it is building. What we did was we put out on social media that if their group or company was interested in providing us with free Wi-Fi for their parking lot, to fill out a Google form. JL got in touch with them, ensured that he vetted the process, and then if they met that, we put it on our update. We have almost every region but one now that it's starting to build and add. We've had that on our list on our website since 2015. However, many of those Wi-Fi sponsors that we had, we needed to go back in this particular scenario because some of them were going into a public library. So this one's specifically for the areas of what we're dealing with right now. So from that standpoint, we're doing pretty well. So we have several different things that we have been doing to get down to the brass tacks. One thing I will say is that we've also been kind of working alongside CIA with the support sessions that's been going on. And you know, we have got some of the best digital learning people here in CIA. So I know Dr. Lanier, Amy Stanley, Josh, Melody, they have had as many as 400 participants this week in their support sessions to really help folks understand how to use these tools. You know, what's the difference between Google Meets and Zoom? Why should you choose one or the other? How do you deliver content in that manner? And so they are they have been really working hard to support that resource plan that you've seen Dr. Coates speak about and helping them as we move forward. They were actually at the Friday Institute the day all this started going south. So these are our folks that they are there, and they are, they're the folks that absolutely love that place. So I can assure you that they're going to be in contact with them as well. So now that's the technology side of things. So I can move on to communication if you want to, or I can entertain questions about just technology. I know.
So, Ms. Gill, did we get a number of students who do not have internet access right now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we do. We have that number. And now what's happened, now that it's been a couple of weeks since we've got those numbers, we have to look and see exactly, we got to drill down even more now and say, because at that time there were people taking on some of the companies that were offering internet, some of those types of things. So we've got to whittle it down now to see who actually needs them. And we really would like, and this is where I've got to get back with CIA and look at the types of courses and things of that nature, because we have to think about, especially your juniors and seniors right now, when they're in certain types of courses. So we really feel like that this is just, our impressions are that starting from senior going all the way down, with that primary focus being in our high schools, is really where we think makes the most sense right now. And that's where we're going to begin our focus in looking there.
Okay, Ms. Gill, in response to hotspots, I was talking with one of our community partners today, Archer Lodge Community Center, and just looking at the website, it does not look like there's a lot of opportunity in that area as far as access to internet. Is that something we can look at, maybe putting a hotspot bus or something of that nature, or trying to come up with another alternative that the students in that area have opportunity to get on Wi-Fi? Unless I'm wrong, you can wrong. I didn't see one in that particular area.
Yeah, and that's one thing. This is a building list, and one of the things we can do is have JL reach back out to some of those particular places and see what we can do with that as well. Once we got that stay-at-home order, right when we were really building steam on the hot Wi-Fi spots, what was happening was the stay-at-home order kind of shut down some of the things, and people weren't back on that again. So we need to reach out to other vendors. We are very interested to see how the first bus Wi-Fi situation is going to go. And then those are pretty easy to get in. So we should be able to have some real quick ideas. And that's mobile. If we find it's not working at one location, we could move it half a day to another location. You know, those are the kinds of things that we can do to experiment and see what works for the different sections of the community. Good point. Thank you.
Thank you.
I may have missed the numbers, but what were the numbers of students without internet access?
I don't have, I think the number is somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000, but in some cases that was every elementary child that was out there. And those were some, now whether they are going to be a perfect match at the time that the principals were seeking that information, it could be, that could be an overshoot. But that's the highest number that we have. And then we know that from a high school standpoint, we had about 700, and that's really where we're trying to focus right now.
Any other questions in technology?
I hope that helps. All right, so let me move on to communication. When you pull up our website, the team has created across the top its own category called COVID-19. It's almost like a mini website within the main website. So when you click under COVID-19, you will see the categories across the top, like the resources, basic information about COVID, the feeding site, the learning plan, all of those types of things. Under the learning plan, you'll see the resources, the plan itself, and then the Wi-Fi sponsors, because that's really for kid focus. You'll also see all of the different things that we have in place that's been building. One of the other things you'll see on the main page is we put, every time we do an update from Dr. Williams or anything that's coming up on the in the news, even something that Governor Cooper has put out, it is our goal to keep that building. Even as dates are changed, you'll see that on the side of that as well. And then we have done a weekly update from Dr. Williams. We felt it very important to ensure that the community has heard from him as that stabilizing force. And we've been doing things with that each week. One of the other things, obviously with the social media outlets, we're also trying to promote all the different good things that are happening as well as information as well. You may have been shared, I think all of you have the COVID-19 communication tool. And if you want to know how this is kind of built from the ground up, you see it day by day, all the things that have happened. And that is almost like watching something that you've never done get built from the very beginning. And that was simply created one day sitting in cabinet where we said we got to start communicating. How are we going to do that? So the good news is that's the playbook. If we get involved in something like this again, we'll have that. But that is a huge communication tool for our principals. I will say we do cabinet meetings twice a week. We do K-12 meetings twice a week with our Zoom tool as well. And we are going through these COVID updates. So that communication has been very, very helpful. Numerous connected. Kudos to Information Services. They have a virtual call center that you see that helps to divert some calls. And many of our folks who are teleworking, that they're on certain hours for taking those calls with the call center. And then let me see. And we've sent out lots and lots of JCPS FAQs, anything from human resources about leave, anything that they need to know about their options for telework and those types of things. So communication has been very, very busy. Any questions about communication before I kind of go to facilities? The rest will go pretty quick.
Any questions?
Okay. From a facility standpoint, our foremen right now are the essential employees that are in place. They're doing a variety of things. As the weeks have gone by, we had more and more of a skeleton crew. We started out very much social distancing, one person to a truck. We're now very much switched over to teleworking, where they are working on some of their pieces. The foremen are designing those telework opportunities for them. We have on-call skeleton staff. Our custodians, I just want to thank them because between them and Dewey Baker, in the 2 to 3 weeks before this event became a closure, we had ordered products, wipes, all sorts of things, and they were already doing a sanitizing plan to keep our school safe for the kids. And the facilities is hopping along. From a transportation standpoint, transportation coordinators in many cases have actually been driving these buses along with our full-time bus drivers have come in and helped. Many of those folks are now out on some sort of a leave or whatever. But they have been assisting us with all the deliveries, loading the food, and at the same time working on routes for next year. And then from a school nutrition standpoint, we have been serving breakfast and lunch. We give them a breakfast that's a ready-made type of meal, and then the lunch. And we have been averaging about 13,000 meals per day. So that's basically we're serving 6,000 people because you're giving out 2 meals. So it's about 6,000 people. At 13 sites and 18 delivery sites. At this particular time, we are taking a suspension of services at this particular time to assess the following things. Number one is our food supply, to begin to start ordering more ready-made types of things that come easy to prepare, to kind of cut down on having to have our staff so closely condensed in a small kitchen area. We are also, and some of that is starting to become an issue and kind of became an issue. One of the things we did early on was move all of our food out of the cafeterias that we had in their freezers and moved it all to the sites to try to use that so that food could be used first to not have to incur another cost with that. But moving forward, as the situation persists, that's when we had to really reevaluate how we wanted to put in our orders and the availability of our orders. We were beginning to struggle with those pieces. The other thing now is that we do have several of our staff members who have taken the opportunity because of qualifying for the state of emergency leave options. And so that has begun to create some emerging issues with staffing and things of that nature. And we also needed to spend a bit of time trying to continue to adjust our social distancing and those types of things. We are highly regulated in the kitchen area as far as cleanliness is concerned, but when you're out working and how to keep folks protected, that is something where we have enjoyed our collaborative partners who have told us some other ways we can do our curbside service to assist us even more. So moving forward, what we're looking at this point is who are all the people that we have available that could potentially come back to work for us, and and looking at the food options that we order and how we would like to proceed moving forward. So this suspension of service was an opportunity for us to really think about what's the best safety for our staff and what's the types of foods we can offer our parents to assist them. Today they got 4 mostly breakfast items to finish out the week, and we had some community partners that's been helping us, and all of them got a flyer that we also have on our internet, but an actual paper flyer that our social workers, and Crystal can speak to that, did a beautiful job of providing the types of places that could be accessed during this coming week. Any other questions about school nutrition, I'll certainly answer, but I'll stop there, and if there's any other questions, I will clarify.
Ms. Gill, I just want to say I actually saw this firsthand in motion. I got an opportunity to ride one of the buses over at Pine Level Elementary and saw them go and deliver meals in one of the at one of the stops, and so great opportunity. It was great to see that not the interaction between the employees at Pine Level and the students, because they knew the students. They knew that if they were not there the day before, they were trying to find out how they could get to them and make sure they got meals. So hats off to all the bus drivers, to the transportation, everybody that played into that. It was a phenomenal thing, and I think some of them were actually trying to figure out, they were having a little game with it, who could give out the most meals, and just having a little fun with it within the district. So great job there. We come back and discuss everything after spring break. I know there was talk about maybe going to something with more of a less prep from the child nutrition side of our vendors. Can you speak on that?
Yes, and that's one of the things that now that, her folks were feverishly trying to cook up the food that we had that was already existing out of our freezers. And so we are looking at some options of maybe 2 to 3 times a week meal service, but then giving them food that are already prepped items. So it's opportunities for our staff to be safe and but also to prep things for folks throughout the week. So some changes in procedures, some changes in how and the types of food that we ordered, and having an opportunity to put those orders in and get them in, and then to work through, because that was emergency sick leave was coming in at that same time, and to assess the available staff that we have to assist us. And those kinds of things, the available staff will drive how many sites we have, how we do things moving forward. So I can't give you a hard and fast answer right here today, because we ended today for the spring break time, and what we're doing right now is collecting who is actually on what type of leave, who's teleworking, who's willing to come back and work, who are teleworking, and then look at our food supply, our procedures, and kind of get ready to get back rolling with some sort of a service for the kids.
That's great. Ms. Gill, please pass along our drivers, our child nutrition folks. They have been heroes through this whole process, and we just appreciate them so very much. I happened to drive through the SSS site, and those ladies were socially distanced, but they were very caring and cheerful and helping people as they were rolling through.
And let me also just kind of speak a little bit about, the emergency funds that we receive from the state, and that we've got, I think, 1.4 million of that, and it was really to kind of fill the gaps in areas such as your child nutrition and your remote learning. So the hot spots, and the cost of those can come out of that. And I had some discussions about that today with Dr. Williams. But understanding that these ladies, it's about to do 1 month of payroll for our child nutrition staff in our county is $500,000 a month. So when you are trying to, and understand that $13,000 is great, and you're reimbursed a little bit higher rate, is my understanding, because it's technically the summer feeding program. That still is not the supplemental sales that you get in a cafeteria that's running every single day, and it's not the $25,000 that we're serving every day. So they run completely on reimbursement. So when they're not getting reimbursements in, that's how they pay the salaries of these people that work for them. So that money coming in from the state helps to cover some of the food costs, and it also covers their salary of all these folks who are working in these sites when we're not getting that reimbursement to come into, because her program is a self-supporting program. So we are most thankful for that emergency funding and having folks who are actually thinking about that in Raleigh, that these are kinds of things that are happening to all of us. And then on the flip side, trying to begin to address equity and trying to help us with the technology side of the hotspot. So specifically, and they talked about remote learning, which we call it at-home learning, and trying to fill in some of these gaps. So just kind of wanted to explain, and 1.4 doesn't go a whole long way when it's $500,000 to pay a seventh largest district in North Carolina. That's a lot of people. And again, our goal is, through telework, through working in a cafeteria, people who might be on emergency sick leave because they're taking care of a granddaughter because their daughter's working at the hospital. Those are the kinds of things these different leaves were made for, and we're trying to keep everybody employed and in this crisis situation. I'm hoping that helps a little bit with kind of how we're doing it.
Thank you. Thank you for feeding our children. Thank you.
Ms. Gill, you mentioned the state funds. What about the federal? Are they doing anything to help?
I hear lots of things about different packages coming down. At the here and the now right now, the only thing I can speak to with the level of intelligence would be that 1.4 million. But I've heard lots of different things floating out there, but I don't have anything definitive at this particular time that I know of.
You would assume that the child nutrition program being supported by the federal government would have been high on the priority list to get you information about what would be possible. So just
well, and Dr. Smith, is it possible that the federal money is coming through this state money?
That's what I don't know.
My understanding is that some of us, and probably Dr. Williams and Art and Brian can speak to it better than I can, is that this is some different pots of money that were unused or had not been accessed yet from the state money. So I haven't heard of anything about that, but again, we can certainly look into that. And a lot of times this kind of feels like a hurricane for me, because when we're dealing with Hurricane Matthew, money started trickling down later and later, but we would get it, but it would come in kind of after the fact. So, all those things are probably being considered.
Very good. Thank you.
Anything else from the logistics side that I can answer for you? And I apologize for taking that time.
No, I just want to say, I want to thank our legislators in the General Assembly and everybody to provide us this $1.472 million. Seventh largest district, it's not go a long ways, but it's definitely much appreciated to assist our child nutrition. And, with the remote learning, we want to think that our devices will come back as we gave them out to each student, but unfortunately, accidents happen where screens break and they just don't come back in the same condition. And this money too, correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Gill, is to assist us with with devices that we may need to replace once they come back to the district. So that money sounds like a lot to the normal stakeholder, but when you start adding up all these things that we could be incurring as far as expenses, it's greatly appreciated. Don't you? It's just we've got different buckets that it may have to assist us in.
Ms. Gill, I have Art Stanley who's joined me in my office. We are practicing social distancing as much as possible, but if you repeat the question, I have Art here. He may be able to respond to the question that was just posed.
I think one of the things that we wanted to know is a little bit about where the 51 million, of which we got 1.4 before, or 1.47 came from. And then secondly, do we know of any federal assistance since our school nutrition program runs from the federal reimbursement program?
$38 million was.
Okay. Art, if you'll step around.
I don't remember. I think it was $48 million somewhere.
All right.
Y'all practice social distancing.
You better get up, Brian.
Is the question, where did the $50 million come from?
Yeah,
Yes.
what pots of money? Yeah.
38 million came from our reading camps, summer reading camps. That's where the bulk of it came from. The other two pieces, I'd have to go on my desk and get that information that I have on my desk. But 38 million came from some reading camps.
So this is state money.
Yes, it is.
Anything about any federal assistance that we know about yet? Any packages coming down?
Not that we know of at this time, no.
So this, if I'm understanding correctly, this was kind of a stopgap emergency measure to keep people functioning, working, and school systems to kind of keep things going during this period of time.
That is correct.
Okay. That's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Gill, for all these updates. Any other questions for Ms. Gill before we turn it over to Crystal? Thank you, Ms. Gill. And now we'll turn it over to Ms. Roberts.
Good evening, Chairman Sutton and members of the board and my comrades there from senior leadership, Dr. Williams. I too want to start by publicly thanking our Equity, Information, and Student Services Department for its collaborative can-do spirit during this time. Connect is the verb that drives us throughout this district, and it means the same in our department as well. So I'll start with our Student Services Department. And, you know, we call it our Wraparound Services Department. And during this time, it's a literal hug for our stakeholders, internal and out. And so just a plethora of activities and things that have been done through student services. Our head nurse, Lynn Parker, has been in constant communication and collaboration and has been our liaison with the health department. And pretty much every day, if not every week, she was attending meetings with our public health director, Dr. Marilyn Pearson, and keeping us abreast. We also developed, thanks to Dr. Amanda Allen's leadership and resourcefulness, a survey to take in the number of volunteers who were interested in helping us through this crisis. And to date, there are more than 470 volunteers on that list. So they are at the ready to help us with anything that we are needing, particularly with feeding students and their families. And we want to thank you as well, Dr. Williams, as well as the board, for prioritizing our employees and giving them this break starting today and through spring break. It's going to give them much needed, well-deserved rest and some time to decompress. because even though they are heroes and they have big hearts, they need their families as well, and they need that time. So thank you so very much for that. Some additional things that have been done in student services, and as I said, there are a plethora. I think I have about 6 pages here, but I will not read all of that to you. But there have been compositions of many health education presentations for students, continuing education, of course, for our counselors and our social workers and our nurses, assistance with curbside pickup at feeding sites, where they have really practiced servant leadership there. A telework guide has been developed for our student services staff. And there are also specific home visit guidelines that we have a protocol, but we brought that forward, especially now during this pandemic. So our social workers, counselors have helped collect food, sort food, deliver food, made calls regarding feeding sites. And here is just an example of going above and beyond for student services staff who work in crisis. This is what they do. They tend to, go over, if you will, and want to make sure that our families, our students are feeling as safe as they can. So there was one particular family that was upset because they could not find pet food for their family animal. And our social workers went out and actually purchased that for them so that they could feel better during this crisis. So these are some of the things that they are doing. We also had a 1-800 number, or have been sharing 1-800 support numbers for anxiety and other support. And I'm sure that Mr. Bertrano will share with you about EAP. We've made sure that that's out in front for our staff members who are needing and feeling a little anxiety during this time. Our school nurses are now a part of an all hazards plan and given an opportunity to volunteer support to the health department. And of course, they do that. We have created and maintained a collection of community and online resources available to staff and community. That was on a flyer that we handed out today for the last day of feeding through spring break. We also, the Student Services Department, also created a frequently asked question sheet to assist those who are manning the call center. And Ms. Gill mentioned that call center is an 800 number that gives our stakeholders just another warm body, another touch if they have questions and cannot reach who they need to reach. Our school social workers have also delivered packets with books and devices when families were not able to come to the school during device distribution. And they've had multiple calls to connect with families where teachers and staff have had challenges making that connection. There are weekly Zoom meetings with our counselors, our social workers, and all of those who are in student services to ensure that we are all connected as well and on the same page. Continuing to work with our community partners, as you know, to ensure that gaps are filled in that we see. We also, in our social workers, facilitated collecting donated bags for making sure that those meals, the multi-day meals, were handed out today. And as far as taking care of others is concerned, I believe that you received information informing you that Dr. Allen was featured on Education Matters, where she was a noted expert, or one of the noted experts featured on that public affairs program to share tips and best practices for taking care of yourself. So we make sure that that information is out in front as well. In our information services unit, this is the unit that came up with, or actually was able to, to just facilitate the development of our call center. We also have a 3CX app that we made sure our employees were aware of. And to date, since we have been involved in this particular crisis, about 800 of our employees have taken advantage of the training that Dan Hicks has provided so that they could use that 3CX app and receive calls to their mobile phones. But when you do call, as you probably already know, you are not reaching or getting that particular phone number. You're actually calling a person's desk. So that 3CX app has been a great service. Let's see. And then I want to mention equity. I've heard you mention equity as far as access to devices and that technology is concerned. And the message that we've sent out from this particular unit is that as we work through access to technology, a touch is equally as important. So our social workers have worked with teachers who are calling their students. And we have just promoted the fact that just calling our students, touching, sending a card or a note is so very important in terms of keeping in touch. And as I said, our word that really describes us is connection. In the equity unit, finally, we are also developing some modules so that our coworkers can complete those modules and receive CEU credit. So we're working with curriculum and instruction for that. So this is truly a collaborative effort, and it is our honor to ensure that everyone has what they need. And I appreciate the opportunity to share with you what this department has been doing.
Ms. Roberts, we appreciate it very much. I've firsthand have dealt with some of this and heard from experience. My sister-in-law is a nurse in the county, and the things that the school nurses have to go above and beyond the call of duty, as well as, like I said, the all hazard plan. And we just appreciate our school nurses, our social workers, everybody that has assisted with, like I said earlier, all hands have been on deck, and we've been pulling this forward as a district. And we greatly appreciate each one of the volunteers. That is a phenomenal number, 470 on this list. I know when we started this Google document, we had 45 or 50 when I transferred it over to you guys. And the social workers, phenomenal job that they go unspoken a lot of times. The things that they do behind the scenes to assist our students and staff is hats off to everybody. We just can't say enough thank you to everybody involved. Everybody, it's been great hearing all these updates, and so we appreciate your update as well.
Thank you.
So we'll turn it over to Mr. Bertrano.
Thank you. Good evening again. Being last, several of the things I had on my list have been mentioned, but that's okay. That just is evident that there's so much that we do independently, but there's so much of our work that overlaps as well. So our goal within human resources and financial services is to support our employees to the greatest extent possible and to keep as many people compensated as possible. And so, as you all know, knowledge is power. And so we have tried throughout this school closure to provide as much information to our employees as possible so that they can determine what benefits may be available to them. Soon after school closed for students and we made the decision to telework, most of our employees the HR finance department issued a 5-page FAQ document to assist our employees, and we've been updating that ever since, because we all know this is an ever-changing situation, and we have said time and time before to our principals and supervisors, what we share with you today, we may be revising and updating tomorrow. And so we've all become accustomed to things changing on a daily basis. We have, as has been mentioned, we've reminded all of our employees of the free confidential service that this school system pays for, which is the Employee Assistance Program. And they have the Employee Assistance Program, EAP, has reached out to us to share with us that we do have employees and some of their families who are reaching out to them during this time. They do not share with us specifically who communicates with them. It is a confidential service, but it is nice to know that this service that the board is providing for our employees is being utilized during this time. We have a contact in our HR department, our HR benefits department, for the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, which is a federal act that can possibly provide some benefits to our employees. And so we've notified our employees that if they have any questions about that, they know who to contact on our staff. The state of emergency leave has been mentioned. Soon after that information was adopted by the state board, our office put out an FAQ, 4-page FAQ, that we continually revise based on updated information that we're receiving from DPI. We already have many of our employees who are qualifying for that. And again, it is our goal to share as much information with our employees as possible, because we all have unique and different needs from time to time, especially during this pandemic. I want to thank our principals and bookkeepers. We participated, or held rather, a Zoom meeting for all of our principals and bookkeepers and gave them a document on how to process and code the request regarding these types of leaves, such as state of emergency leave, because there are different payroll codes that have to be used, and there's a lot of behind the scenes things that have to occur in order to provide these benefits to our employees. So I want to thank the bookkeepers for their participation and the principals as well. They are now fielding lots of questions from employees and are assisting them during this time. And then last, we are providing, most likely tomorrow, telework procedures. We have given so much information out from various departments. And so this document will basically put all of that into one document, which will help guide our employees during this time. And I want to thank Mara from Tharrington Smith. She drafted these procedures for us. And much of the information in there are things that we were already following. And it's nice to have it all in one package for our employees. So that will be sent to all of our employees. So, for example, it covers things such as, while you're teleworking, you still need to follow all board policies. You still need to handle student and staff information in a confidential manner. It talks about how we might handle workers' comp during this time where school is closed and individuals are working remotely. So it's a great document. And again, it's information that we will be able to provide to our employees to help guide them through this time. The last thing I want to mention, and I'm echoing others who have discussed things and shared things tonight, is that the HR team and finance team have been working diligently during this time. I have to really thank the finance team. I know that many of our employees are teleworking, but the finance team, they are here every single day, in spite of what's going on in our country and in the world, because they know that if they're not here, our employees are not getting paid. And so I just want to thank them tremendously for venturing out every day, even during these difficult times, and showing up here at work. And I just can't thank them enough. And that's all I have, unless you all have questions.
Thank you, Brian.
Thanks so much. And I didn't get a chance to say this to Crystal, but Crystal and Brian both, I just want to thank you and all of your staff for all the hard work that they're putting in. Not just pay, we tend to think of our just a few people being out there, but there's a lot of folks working behind the scenes, showing up to work every day, and really putting themselves in harm's way, so that our employees can continue to be paid, our children can continue to be fed, and our children can continue to be cared for. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. It's the finance team too. We can turn on the TV and see that many people across our county, our state, and the United States are losing their jobs on a daily basis. It's very unfortunate to what we're dealing with as a country, but what the staff and finance committee, the finance team is doing, making sure that each one of our employees are still getting paid. And that is what the board wanted to make sure of. And I applaud the board for making that decision with me. It's the right thing to do to make sure that people don't have that stress to deal with. It's enough stress to deal with the stay-at-home order and the possibility of, if they're on the front lines in our school system, they're putting themselves at a risk. And thank you is not enough. We just appreciate each and every one of them. So thank you for bringing that, giving us that update as well, and make sure that everybody understands that the board really appreciates everything they've done on a daily basis regarding coming into work and assisting. I think Dr. Williams at this time would like to share some items as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mine's very quick. I just wanted to take a moment after each department had the opportunity to speak to just thank every single member of the senior leadership and every single department that they represent and every single person that is in that department. Also wanted to make sure that I take an opportunity to thank every single principal and every school employee and every person that works for Johnston County Public Schools, because every single thing that has happened up to this point has been a complete and total team effort, and everybody has worked tirelessly, days, nights, weekends. Communication has been nonstop. And I wanted to make sure to take that opportunity, just like we did this past week. And I know I sent an email and Noah did a Connect Ed, but also to our families and to our children who have done what we've asked as well, and who have supported us through this effort. And as we've said before, that in order for us to get through this or anything else, is going to be together. And I'd also like to thank the Board of Education, has the interim superintendent at this time, for every single bit of the support that you've given me, all the words of encouragement, the text message that you've sent to tell us to get the job done. You got our support. We got your back. Do what you need to do. And I thank you for that, because it's made our job, it's put us in a position to be able to do what we need to do to take care of our families, take care of our staffs, take care of our children, and make the decisions that we've needed to make. And so that's, I just wanted to conclude the update with that that's how we'll finish this out, and that's how we'll get through it successfully as together.
Thank you, Dr. Williams, and thank you for all of the support you've given this school district and on these uncharted waters that we are talking about. And little did we know a couple of months ago that we were going to be sitting in this pandemic, and what it was going to be causing, not only our school district, but what you've taken under your wings as well. And we appreciate everything you brought to the table, and the entire leadership team and the cabinet, and everybody has really, like you said, it's a team effort. It's no I in team, and we are pulling in the same to make sure that Johnston County Public Schools does shine through this time. And we're going to look back on, I truly believe, in months to come, and districts are going to reach out to us and say, man, I want to really understand and get a so-called playbook of your pandemic information that you guys put together and really understand it. God forbid we go through this again, but if the case does arise, they have an opportunity to learn from us and learn from the communication standpoint, the whole 9 yards that we've put together. The website is phenomenal. All the information on COVID-19 is it's great. And no nobody left a rock unturned, and I truly believe that. So I appreciate everything. Make sure that every employee understands that, and we just can't echo that. So any other comments from the board members on this?
What I'd like to say too, we want to recognize these teachers that are trying to work with our students from home, and many of them have their own children at home that are also having to do work. So they're trying to help their children, their own personal children, plus our Johnston County school children. And we understand that places an extra burden on them, and we appreciate what they do. And even, I know so many of these different school systems too have had where the teachers have made parades and gone out to the communities for their children just to let them know they're thinking of them. I mean, I just, our school system has just gone above and beyond in so many different ways, and it's so appreciated. And I mean, there's just not enough words to tell people how much we appreciate what they're doing. But I know it's tough on these families that have their own children at home, and they're trying to take care of ours too. I know they have an extra burden, and we appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Well, I just want to say, as the only board member with a small child in school, Isabella's in 4th grade, just sitting back and watching just the energy of the classes that are being done online and the conversations between students and their teachers. And it's very, very apparent that the bond is there between our kids and our teachers, and they're working diligently, because now it's not just classroom management. Now they've got to Zoom manage or Google Hangout manage. And with that comes a whole new set of rules and a whole new set of procedures that not only the teacher has to figure out, but the students have to figure out as well. And so if any of you have had the opportunity to sit and Todd, I know that you have, but if you have an opportunity to sit and watch a kid learn from a computer, from a live teacher, it's absolutely mind-blowing.
It is no surprise. We absolutely have the best here in Johnston County.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you, I have a daughter that's a freshman in high school, and just seeing the collaboration between her and her friends and other students in classes that they're currently in is phenomenal, because they're FaceTiming each other. They're talking about the refresher documents that have been sent out by their teachers, the teachers checking in on them and things of that nature. Teresa, I echo exactly what you said, but it's phenomenal, because these teachers are just as concerned about their students as they are their own, that they're having to deal with on a daily basis. Trying to teach a 9th grader how to get on Zoom has been a fun experience. But thank God we have technology that we can assist these students during this time. If you think when we were in school, when I had hair on my head, we didn't have these opportunities like this. And so, we appreciate the technology in this capacity, and we're going to continue to move down the street with it. But phenomenal job by our teachers. I mean, every employee at Johnston County, I wish that the board members can get on and have a parade, and we can go by every one of their houses and wave and thank them for a job well done. And
yes, sir.
Once the social distancing has gone away, maybe we can offer that, and we can show our appreciation by really giving back to them in some capacity. So any other comments from the board members on the updates?
I just like to ditto everything everybody said. Having a husband who drove a bus and watched the little faces and the parents' appreciation, it has been a phenomenal community. It's been amazing to watch how communities have come together and businesses have opened their doors and offered services, and it's just been amazing. So while we are counting our blessings, we need to count those as well, that we have become a better and kinder community.
Absolutely.
And I think the other thing that I'm super impressed by is PAC meetings are still happening, right? So PAC meetings with schools and their principals, and the parents get to talk about, not necessarily their frustrations, but their fears of having to be the one that makes sure their kid is signing up at the right time and they're on that Zoom call. So the principals, everybody, it's just amazing how we have locked step together and are just doing everything we need to for our students and our teachers and our staff.
That's right.
All right. Well, any other comment? I want to make sure that the board has an opportunity to speak in this capacity if they so choose. So anybody else? All right. We'll move on to Ms. Gill for a couple of approvals.
Yes, the first item that I have is Board Exhibit 9C1, and it is regarding Westview Elementary School. We'll be asking for an approval today. I believe it was last May. You probably recall the really terrible hailstorm that we had. It came through very quickly right around dismissal time. Westview Elementary received extensive damage from the storm, and we did make a claim with our insurance company. And so we've been through quite a process to determine whether it could be repaired or did it need to be replaced. And so we have determined that it needs to be replaced, and with a completely new standing seam metal roof. We did a request for proposals where they were advertised and 6 bids were received on March 26th. Eastern Corporation of Youngsville was the lowest bidder with a bid of $948,300 and the bid tabs attached. We also will have a group from Wolf Trail Engineering to provide professional services during construction. It's a little bit different because it's an insurance claim situation, and you'll see their particular fee, but this is insurance. And we will, upon your recommendation to approve this contract today, we'll start working with the folks, get up pre-construction, and start working with the principal to get this replaced. If you've gone by the school, if you ever kind of go back and look at it, you can see little dents all in that entire roof. And the problem with that is you may not like the dents, or you might. The problem is how long will the individual nails and all of that, because you've got a dent in it, can create rust, create leaks. And we just were not comfortable and couldn't find a very good repair. So we really moved forward with a replacement. So I'll bring that to you for approval today.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to for the Westview roof bid to Eastern Corporation at this time.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Dr. Smith, second by Mr. Johnson. Any questions, comments for Ms. Gill?
Ms. Gill, how much of that is covered by insurance?
What we're told is that they are going to cover the entire part of it. You know, they gave us a certain amount of money that we have right now, and then beyond that, we just had to work with them to tell them what else we needed. So we had to go through the bidding process with them, but they have worked with us great on this whole situation. I think you have the first amount's already sitting in our account, and then you give them the bills for what was beyond that, because we did go through the lowest bidder.
Wonderful.
And the engineer answers to the insurance company, is that correct? The Wolf Group.
To be honest with you, Dr. Smith, Brooks told me about that, and I can't remember exactly how that worked. I can get that to you, but that was something that's slightly different this particular time.
Not a problem. But that service was required by the insurance company, correct?
I wish I had the answer for you on that, but I completely do not remember. So I'd rather go back and get Brooks to get y'all an answer, get that sent out by Michelle for you.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? If not, we'll go to a vote. All in favor of accepting the bid from Eastern Corporation for Westview roof, say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries 6-0.
The next item I have is Board Exhibit 9C2. It's the South Johnston High School grant from the Tobacco Trust Fund grant. They were actually supposed to be here this particular month. We will get them in. They wanted to present the big check for this. but they will come at some point. But they were the recipients at South Johnston. Thank you to Cherry Johnson, who is the Director of Research and Grants, who applied for the grant to construct a 50 by 60 engineered metal building to be used to expand Ideal Academy's ag program. And you will see some of the specifics on your exhibit sheet about what that's going to be like. Brooks will be overseeing this particular project in its entirety, and a request for proposals was advertised in a total of 3 bids on February 27th, and Son Incorporated of Wilson's Mills was the lowest bidder with a bid of $184, and the bid tab is attached. And again, all of the construction administration for this particular project has been done in-house and is within the grant funding allotment that we received. So I bring that to you for approval as well.
All right, so I'll entertain a motion for the South Johnston Agricultural Building that will be a 50 by 60 building that will utilize the Ideal Academy program.
So moved.
All right, motion by Ms. Sessoms, second by Mr. Johnson. Any questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 6-0. All right, at this time, we don't have any updates. We got all of our updates in the COVID-19 section of our meeting. You will see on your board agenda, we do have special session meetings coming up next Tuesday, April 14th at 5 p.m. is closed session. Again, on Wednesday, April 15th at 5 p.m. closed session. Then Tuesday, April 21st, 5 p.m. closed session. Wednesday, April 22nd, 5 p.m. closed session. Those are for our superintendent interviews. And we will do an session, just Pledge of Allegiance and our prayer, and then go immediately into closed session for those items. We have the budget session on Monday, April 27th. More information to come on that. We're going to try to be in the board, do that remotely. And then our May board meeting on Tuesday, May 12th, 4 p.m. closed session, 5 p.m. open session. So what's going on in that? Appreciate everybody working very hard on all of these meetings that we have coming up starting next week. So if there's no other information to come before the board tonight, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Todd, before we adjourn, I just hope I can get on the screen before our next meeting. I don't know why I have not been able to be a part of the visuals, but if we could troubleshoot sometime during this week, I would really appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. We'll definitely do that. You and I can connect, or we can get with Nathaniel or somebody from the IT team to make sure that we can get that taken care of.
Thank you. And with that, I'll move to adjourn.
All right. I've got a motion from Dr. Smith.
Second.
Second by Ms. Grant. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries 6-0. We are now adjourned. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.